Hunting season rolls around every year, and I make it a point to travel up to Maine for my annual hunting trip. Instead of investing in my own place, which wouldn't make financial sense for a single trip, I opt for renting an Airbnb. As I'm not an expert hunter, I usually tag along with my uncle, but recent health issues have limited his participation. Thus, I find myself going solo more often. In 2022, the last time I embarked on this adventure, I booked an Airbnb near a national park in Maine. Arriving late on a Friday after a long drive from work, I found myself on a secluded dirt road leading to the cabin. The pitch black surroundings and eerie silence emphasized the remote nature of the place. Following the owner's instructions, I located the key hidden under the mat, settled in, and appreciated the cozy cabin atmosphere, complete with the owner's considerate gesture of warming the space. Equipped with cable and Wi-Fi, I set an early morning alarm for a promising dawn hunt. The next day, I ventured into unfamiliar territory and positioned myself behind some knocked-over trees. However, my hunting experience took an unexpected turn when a man with gray hair, seemingly much younger than his appearance suggested, approached me angrily, questioning my presence. Apparently, hunting was restricted in that area, news that caught me off guard. Apologizing, I explained my ignorance of the restriction, but the man seemed skeptical. He claimed to have observed many out-of-town folks with dubious motives riding up to the cabin. Uneasy, I packed my things and left as instructed, only to find the man mysteriously vanished from sight. Opting for a different park, I faced disappointment during the first half of the day. Returning to the cabin for a midday break, I discovered the door unlocked, and my belongings seemed slightly disturbed. Uncertain whether my mind played tricks on me, I decided to have dinner in a nearby village before resuming my hunting expedition. Returning to the cabin, I noted the unsettling feeling, but shrugged it off. While watching TV and reminiscing about the unlocked door, I eventually dozed off on the love-seat couch. Later, I ventured back to the park but encountered no luck. Fatigued, I returned to the cabin, prepared dinner, and began watching a movie in the bedroom. In a drowsy state, I heard a door click open. Startled, I found the closet door ajar, triggering a sudden realization that my earlier concerns might not have been unfounded. Armed with a CZ-75, I confronted the intruder, who turned out to be the same man from earlier, sporting a creepy smile. I called 9-1-1, ensuring his arrest for breaking and entering. The man ranted about people like me disrespecting the parks, leaving me puzzled. The sheriff's deputies arrived, making an arrest, though the man insisted the door was unlocked. The Airbnb host vouched for my carefulness, emphasizing that the door had been left locked. Grateful for having my firearm, I reflected on the unnerving encounter during what was meant to be a peaceful hunting trip.
Second story, Encounter in the Northern Wilderness, a terrifying night on Rabbit Road.
I was 14 years old when the incident occurred during my inaugural deer hunting expedition with my family. The hunting party comprised my father, my cousin, and me. To set the scene, my blind was positioned 2 miles south of my father's, while his stand was situated 9 miles southwest of our camp. We traveled on a four-wheeler, parking it about 100 yards from my father's stand, leaving me with a considerable distance to cover on foot. Living in northern Michigan, the winter evenings descended rapidly, and around 4 p.m., I decided to close up my tent. Armed with a .243 rifle adorned with a pink camo cover and a strap for convenience, I zipped up my blind, stowed away my belongings, and was discarding trash in a bucket when I heard the rustling of leaves. Initially dismissing it as a squirrel or bird, I closed the blind and headed towards my father's location, disappointed by the lack of deer. As I stepped out of my blind, I noticed a fresh, wide pathway through the leaves. It wasn't the trail of a small animal or a deer, leading me to speculate about the presence of a bear or wolf. Increasing my pace, darkness began to envelop the surroundings, and panic set in, realizing I was still roughly a mile away from my father. Walking briskly, I was suddenly halted by an eerie, spine-chilling noise, akin to a mix between a bear and a man being brutally attacked. Frightened, I began to run, weighed down by my boots and hunting gear. Approximately 25 seconds later, the terrifying sound echoed again, louder and closer. In complete darkness, with only the moonlight guiding me, I turned around, illuminating the area with my headlight. To my horror, about 50 yards away, a black figure stood tall and skinny, around 10 feet in height. Without a second thought, I sprinted, fumbling to get my gun off my back. Running without a clear direction, I found myself on Rabbit Road, recognizing it as the path connecting my camp to the hunting area entrance. As I approached my camp, I turned around to witness the figure again, this time further away. It remained a menacing silhouette with long arms and legs. Upon reaching the cabin steps, I collapsed from exhaustion, vomiting for about a minute before losing consciousness. I woke up to the sound of my father's four-wheeler entering the driveway. Overwhelmed, I recounted the harrowing experience to my skeptical father, whose disbelief waned as he saw the desperation in my eyes. Unable to sleep for weeks after the incident, I've since changed my hunting habits. Nowadays, I only hunt with a companion and carry a larger gun, seeking reassurance and safety. Reflecting on this, it remains the most frightening experience of my life.
The third story, The Haunting of Alice Ranch, A Terrifying Night in the Wilderness.
It was a Friday evening, and I was returning home from school at 10:28. At the age of 13, I was eagerly anticipating a hunting trip to the ranch in Alice, Texas. This place held a special significance for me, as I had been visiting it since the age of 4, creating numerous memories with my grandpa and dad. Our hunting party included a few others, such as the ranch owner's family. The excitement mounted as we loaded up for the deer season, my favorite time of the year. Witnessing a majestic deer right before your eyes and the thrill of the hunt were experiences I cherished. Despite the ethical debates surrounding hunting, I believed in consuming what we hunted. Arriving at the 300-acre ranch around 10 p.m., darkness enveloped the area. The campsite, a small old shack akin to a standard bedroom, was where we unpacked and prepared for the upcoming days. Though equipped with electricity, it lacked the spaciousness of larger cabins. An incident involving a snake shed in one of the beds led us to opt for tents instead. The camp, surrounded by woods and featuring a small field, served as a venue for dove hunting. After unloading, we gathered around the campfire, exchanging jokes until a disturbing scream pierced the night. The eerie sound, resembling a hybrid of human and animal, left everyone unnerved. The ranch owner, visibly concerned, dispatched us to investigate. Using my grandpa's ATV, we conducted a swift search around the perimeter, but found nothing. Traumatizing scream lingered in my mind, making me apprehensive about hunting alone in the dark. Despite my fear, I slept in the tent with a gun beside me. Awakening to the alarm, I prepared for the day, uneasy about being alone in the dark. My grandpa dropped me off at the blind with his ATV, leaving me to navigate the ladder and climb into the blind on my own. As I waited for the sun to rise, I observed a figure on the trail through my night vision sight, expecting a deer. To my horror, the distorted silhouette resembled a person walking towards the woods. The night vision, though unclear, revealed the figure facing me. A blood-curdling scream, similar to the one from the previous night but louder, emanated from the figure. Fear overwhelmed me as I fired the entire clip of my .22 into its path, followed by rounds from my rifle. Upon checking the area, there were no signs of blood or footprints. The creature, whatever it was, had survived the onslaught. Despite ongoing hunts, the once peaceful experience had been forever altered by the encounter. Now, I only venture out with my dad, haunted by the fear that the mysterious entity might return. The enigma of what that thing was lingers, as it endured multiple rounds without leaving a trace.
Fourth story, Haunted Hunting Grounds, Unexplained Encounters in Ridge, 1986.
It was the autumn of 1986, and at the age of 23, I had never felt fear in the woods. The wilderness had always been my sanctuary, a place to unwind and escape life's pressures. Despite my years spent as a lineman in a small town in West Kentucky, facing various challenges, I had never encountered anything unsettling in the woods. No Bigfoot, skinwalker, or any other supernatural beings. Working as a lineman meant wearing multiple hats in a small moonie, including utility disconnects. It wasn't the most enjoyable task, but it was a part of the job. I had seen my fair share of craziness, but it had never extended into the woods. My main hobbies were hunting and fishing, and back in those days, finding a good hunting spot was as simple as asking the landowner for permission. In October 1986, I left work at 4 and hurried home to change into my camo gear. It was bow season in Kentucky, my favorite time to hunt. I had a special place in mind, an area we'll refer to as Ridge, a remote region with broken farmland and wooded sections. Opting not to unload my three-wheeler, I decided to walk the 3/4 of a mile to my chosen hunting spot. Carrying my summit climbing stand, bow, and a fanny pack containing my knife and flashlight, I navigated through a cornfield lane, sticking to the trail left by farmers. Ridge was a picturesque location with an elevated end, a creek crossing, and a thicket filled with blackberries. After setting up my climbing stand on a suitable tree, approximately 20 feet high, I settled in around 5:30 p.m. As a lineman accustomed to heights, I enjoyed getting as high as possible for a better vantage point. Around 8 p.m., nearing the full moon that night, I heard something walking. It sounded like a deer in the thicket, but I couldn't catch a glimpse. I waited patiently, but at 8 o'clock, a loud crashing sound indicated a deer had spotted me descending from the tree. Securing my gear and turning on my flashlight, I began navigating the thicket's edge, attempting to find the trail I had used to enter. However, the unfamiliar terrain proved challenging. By 9 p.m., ready to exit, I emerged into the field about 25 yards from my entry point, thinking the adventure was over. As I picked thorns from my hands and legs, I noticed something peculiar in the moonlit field. When I had walked in, there was nothing there, but now, about 6 feet wide and 6 feet tall, a dark figure stood in the trail, blocking my way out. Unperturbed, I walked towards it, initially hoping it was just an odd shadow. To my surprise, it was 2 people, a guy and a girl, standing side by side, motionless and silent. The eerie encounter left me uneasy, considering it was 9:15 p.m., and nobody should have been there. With no response from them, I continued walking, keeping an eye on the silent pair. They neither turned nor acknowledged my presence. At a distance of 20 yards, I could make out their features, a young couple, perhaps around 20 years old. Even at 10 yards, they remained motionless, unresponsive to my questions about the cold weather. Pressing on for another 100 yards, I finally reached my truck. The quiet surroundings made me uneasy, fearing an ambush. Cautiously, I observed my truck for a few minutes before approaching it. Satisfied that it was safe, I headed home, puzzled about how the couple got there without any visible vehicle. The following day at work during lunch, I discovered all 4 of my truck's tires were low, each punctured with 10 to 15 roofing nails. I had to install tubes to get home, leaving me perplexed about the bizarre incidents in those woods. The eerie feeling of being watched lingered, prompting me to avoid going alone and never parking off the main gravel road again. To this day, the identity of those two young individuals and the reason behind my punctured tires remain unknown, adding an air of mystery to my hunting experiences in Ridge.
Thank you for watching these stories. We hope you enjoyed them. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more exciting content. See you in new stories.